USCHO.com. This is the USCHO Spotlight, a weekly podcast from U.S. College Hockey Online at USCHO.com, featuring conversations with college hockey coaches and players and journalists who cover the sport.
Welcome to the USCHO Spotlight podcast for Wednesday, February 6, 2019. I'm Ed Trefzger alongside Jim Connelly. Before we get started, a reminder that this episode is brought to you by the NCAA Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at KeyBank Center in Buffalo. Visit ncaa.com/Frozen4. One of the surprises in college hockey this year is the tremendous success of the first place American International College Yellow Jackets in Atlantic hockey.
And we are joined now by the head coach of American International in his third season, and that's Eric Lang. Eric, congratulations on the season you've had to date. Obviously, it's a big step in the right direction for the AIC program.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been so far so good. We feel like we're at the three-quarter pole here, so certainly, just like most teams, want to be playing our best hockey down the stretch and put ourselves in a position here where we can, set ourselves up for success for the Atlantic Hockey Tournament.
You've been, as I mentioned, in your third season there, took over after a long stint of Gary right behind the bench, a coach that I know you knew well. And the ability for your program to put together wins and to kind of build a different culture has obviously had some success. 8 wins your first season, a program high 15 last season. You're already at 15 this season with a number of games to play. What has changed in that culture that's been able to allow this program to take the step to that next level?
I think the first thing that's kind of happened for us here is we feel like we're starting to turn the corner is a strong belief. A belief that we're going to win every single time we go on the ice. And, we went from 3 years ago to hoping we were going to win some hockey games. And in year 3, having an expectation that we're going to win some hockey games. And I obviously credit our group here. We are, it's a group that has not settled. We are very rarely happy with what we have done, whether it's not playing for 60 minutes and getting a win, and or maybe coming off a tough loss or a game that maybe we have won and didn't play well. I really have to say the internal accountability we have right now in our program is a thing of beauty. And like I said, the guys really just are never happy, and that's a great thing as a coach.
I look at your schedule today, now just even the recent schedule since the beginning of January. Your team certainly knows how to win different types of games, a 2-0 win, a 2-1 win, a 3-2 win, and then an 8-5 win against Mercyhurst a couple of weeks ago, a 6-4 and 6-3 wins last week against Niagara. So it doesn't matter if you're in one of those games that is a shootout that not every coach loves, or if you're playing that defensive style that I'm sure you would prefer to see your team play. Your team finds ways to win in different ways.
We certainly have done it a bunch of different ways. It helps that we're scoring more than we ever have. So I don't think our group ever thinks they're out of a hockey game, but I think the most important statistic for us is if you looked at our third periods, we had an unbelievable emphasis since we started this thing in September about making sure we are finishing games, making sure we're a great third period hockey team, and our conditioning had to reflect that. And our belief and our buy-in from our group had to reflect that. And, when we get to after 2 periods of play here, the group starts getting excited for the third period. They just think they're going to win every single third period. And, we've been pretty darn good in some third periods. And I'm not exactly sure what the numbers show, but I do know it's been our best period. And it's a good feeling to know that, we can come from behind, we can hold off and secure a win. And even if we're a couple goals down here in the third, we never think we're out of a hockey game.
We're speaking with Eric Lang, head coach at American International. Probably emphasis on international. If I counted right, you have players from, is it 9 different countries on your squad? How have you managed to recruit from such a a wide part of the globe?
For us 3 years ago when we took this thing over, we thought about a plan, and the one nice thing I had was that I was a player here. I was an assistant here, and I wasn't necessarily learning about the institution. And, I said, we can try and do things the same as everybody and do it better, or we can look in a different direction and do it differently. And, we chose the latter, and certainly getting a return on our investment with that. We have 11 Europeans on our team, and we've got a few committed for down the road here. And what we're finding is good players from Sweden want to play with other good players from Sweden, and there's some comfort there. And it was certainly by design, but what we have stumbled into is, the younger batch of, international players wanting to come here. And it's, for us, it's a model that really works. And, we're proud of the American International. It dates back to our school's heritage here. And like I said, it's nobody else in the country is close to that number we had. And, when we first started this, I do think some people thought this wouldn't work. And, we're certainly not out of the woods, but to date, it has proved to be a pretty good, thing for us right now.
As the league has stepped up facilities, certainly American International has stepped up its home facility. I remember games years ago in the freezing bleachers of Olympia, and now you have the beautiful downtown Mass Mutual Center to call home. What has that meant for your team to get such a nice venue to host games?
It's been great. It's been great for our league. You look at us, you look at Sacred Heart, you look at Bentley, and Mercyhurst just getting $4 million today to upgrade their facilities. I just think it's great for college hockey on the whole. And the venue has certainly helped. Hockey in Western Massachusetts right now, whether you look at the American Hockey League All-Star Game or what UMass has done or even what we have done to date, we're learning that we're in a pretty good hub of hockey here. And, it's a beautiful facility. It's a great place to watch a hockey game, and Springfield, Eddie Shore, old time hockey. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great hockey fans in this area. And, we've had some good crowds in there, something that, is a residual benefit of probably us playing well and obviously the facility, going hand in hand.
And when you're playing at home at Mass Mutual Center, I got to say, it doesn't feel like you're just visiting an AHL rink. The place feels like it's AIC's home during a game, scoreboard and everything.
The Mass Mutual, they have been, which is the MGM now, they've been unbelievable with us. And when we do walk in there, it certainly feels like an AIC event, as you had just mentioned. And, it's 3/4 of a mile away from our campus. So it's our guys are at the rink in 5 minutes from their last class. It's not that we're traveling a ways, and we've got a beautiful locker room. And, the people at the Mass Mutual have treated us like first-class citizens here. And we're certainly delighted, honored, and lucky to be in that building.
You spent 5 years as an assistant to Brian Riley at Army, and certainly Brian's one of the great guys around the game. What did that experience working with Brian and coaching at Army, what did that bring for you as you moved into being a head coach?
The first thing is Brian Riley, probably one of the best human beings I've ever been around. He's a very good friend of mine to date, and, the one thing Brian does as well as anybody is his absolute genuine care for his players. And it's kind of like that connect before you correct mentality. And, it starts there. It's one of those things where, he was easy to talk about when we would recruit to the parents, because he's the type of guy you want your son to play for, and he's going to be treated unbelievably well. And outside of that, he's a tremendous leader. And, some of the things I've learned from Brian was everything matters, and you do everything the right way. And that institution speaks to itself. It's a special place for special people. And the one thing when people ask me what my time was like at West Point, the one thing I've learned is that everybody has more to give. And, what those cadets are asked, from 6 a.m. and a lot of those kids are in the library till 11, 12 at night. We all have more to give, and I've taken that with me here, and it's push a little harder, and we all do have more to give. We've got more to give as coaches. Our players have more to give, and that's the West Point mentality, and that's why they've the institution, as I mentioned, has produced some of the best leaders in the world, and it's just it's a fabulous, outstanding place, very dear to my heart.
You had the opportunity to coach alongside Gary Wright in Atlantic hockey over a decade ago, and then you've seen the league during that stretch at Army and now again at AIC. It's almost become a cliche when we talk about Atlantic hockey, how it's grown, but looking for your view on the level of play and the level of coaching and all those different areas. How much has Atlantic hockey grown over the last 12, 15 years?
It's a really good question. And, I want to just touch on Gary for a second. I always say I had the two best mentors in this business, two guys with massive amounts of integrity. And, my time under Gary was amazing, both as a player and as an assistant. But in terms of the league, I think I do feel that, in 2006 and 2007, I do feel that the league had a little bit more of separation. It kind of felt like these, you can almost look at a season and say these 2 or 3 will be in the bottom, these 4 or 5 will be in the middle, and these 3 will be in the top. And, that coach's poll in the beginning of the year was probably a hell of a lot more accurate back then than it is now, which, could be a crapshoot at times. And the level of hockey is, you look at the amount of players playing in the American League and playing high levels of pro hockey. In 2006, 2007, the league was maybe lucky to have 1 or 2 guys represent at a fairly significant pro level, and now you look across the board, and it might be 1 or 2 players from each team. So the hockey is certainly improved, and even out of conference. You look, some of the things our league has done out of conference, and the level of play is significantly increased, and with each institution getting the facilities getting better and the scholarships increasing, I'd expect that it continues to get better.
We'll have more with Eric Lang in a moment. First, this word from the NCAA Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at KeyBank Center in Buffalo.
Speed and precision, unrelenting power. This trophy is not given, it must be earned. The 2019 NCAA Frozen Four, April 11th and 13th at KeyBank Center in Buffalo.
With a shot, saved by Morris. Takes the shot.
Visit ncaa.com/Frozen4 and get your tickets today.
This is USCHO Spotlight. We are talking with American International head coach Eric Lang. And Eric, I saw your team a couple of weeks ago at Mercyhurst, and that Saturday night game, I mentioned to you afterwards, he stood out, and obviously he's been one of the best players on your team, Blake Christensen. Talk about the dynamic that he brings to that offense in terms of his skill level.
Blake is a U.S. development kid. He's played with some special players. I think we looked at one point, 8 to 10 guys are in the National Hockey League that were on the same team as Blake. And, he's one of these special players that can make something out of nothing. It looks like, a 1-on-2 is developing and all of a sudden he slipped through 2 guys, or, it looks crowded. He comes out with a puck and he can, toe drag and flip a puck up over your stick and get something to the net. He is, as skilled of a player as I've ever coached, and he is as tenacious and and a competitive player as I've ever coached. I joked around with somebody a couple weeks back. My son was on the ice, and they were fooling around together, and Blake kept the puck away from him for about 8 minutes. And I said, Jesus, I wonder if he's going to let my kid touch the puck. And that's not Blake. If you want the puck, you got to come earn it and take it. Even I don't care if you're 7 years old or who you are, and. But that's Blake Christensen's grade A competitor, and you combine that with a very high skill level, and we're seeing the results of it.
Another player who's having a fantastic season on the back end, yet again, Brennan Kapchek, he and Blake Christensen just nominated this week for the Walter Brown Award. A little bit about Brennan, if you could.
I have felt that, and we've played some really good teams this year, and whether it be UMass and Providence and Quinnipiac, Brennan Kapchek has consistently been the best player or the second best player on the ice, and that's irrelevant of our opponent. He is he's our go-to bread and butter. He breaks the puck out. He defends so hard. He makes our power play go. He's one of these players that when he has the puck, where it heads next is in a way better situation than where it just came from. And I don't know what a National Hockey League player looks like in terms of coming out of Atlantic hockey or coming from a program like AIC, but that kid is as close to one as I could imagine, because he's there isn't anything the kid can't do, and he's just a special player for us.
I look at your schedule here down the stretch, and it is a little bit unique as I look at it. You have a 6-point lead in the standings. I know a couple of weeks ago you told me you don't really like to look at standings much, but there's only 4 league games left. You'll play 2 non-league games against Arizona State on the road, and you'll have a bye week in there, I believe, or you won't have a full schedule as some other teams will. Some teams might have as much as 8 league games left. Philosophically, do you mind that schedule? Do you like that schedule? I guess when you get ahead and you're not the team catching up, it's not the worst thing to be giving away games in hand, but it is a little strange that you're not playing the most hockey down the stretch like most of the other teams.
No, it's a good point. It's something a little unique and different for us. And to your point, I guess we'd rather be 6 points up and try and make the most of these next 8 available points that are afforded to us here. But at the end of the day, we have to win games down the stretch here to put ourselves in a situation to, look at a first round bye here. And that's really important for us, even in terms of, we've got some injuries here, and we think we can get healthy here. If we can skip a week of the playoffs, that certainly would be monumental for us. And even in terms of our program here, having never, even, been close to the situation we're in right now, to have a first round bye would be just another a pretty good step in the process here for us. So we're going to try and take care of our business. I don't know what that will look like come that bye week if I'm tuned in and watching what other teams are doing, or out in Arizona State, obviously, when some other teams are they're picking up points and we're kind of sitting idle. But like I said, for us, it's there's 8 available points out there. I think we need every single one of them, and the chips will fall how they fall after that.
Lastly, I will talk about this weekend series. 2 games at Army West Point, Friday and Saturday night. Obviously, it's a team you're familiar with, a place you're familiar with. What is it like to go back to Army to play a team that you loved for so long?
It'll be pretty neat. I'm from down that area. I lived in White Plains, which is about 40 minutes away. We'll have a pretty good following there. I certainly don't look forward to competing against those West Point, Brian Riley coach teams. The ice will be hard to come by. It's a tough place to win. It's one of the better college hockey environments in our league, and if not in the country. And it's something to playing against or coaching against one of your mentors and someone you have so much respect for. We'll shake hands after, and we'll probably text immediately after the game. And it's just one of those things that's, I wish we weren't playing them, to be honest. That's just, but I don't get to have a big say in that. So at the end of the day, you know what, we've got to play them, and we'll have to be ready for a highly competitive, physical team that, just like the rest of these teams in Atlantic hockey, they're looking to put points in the bank, and they're certainly looking to move up in the standings as well.
Well, it should be 2 games, great games this weekend, then a great rest of the slate for you. A lot of interest, I'm sure, from the folks out in Western Mass. Eric Lang, head coach at AIC, we thank you for your time, and certainly best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate all you do for college hockey.
AIC certainly is a great success story so far this season, Jim, and it's interesting to hear Eric Lang talk about some great mentors. Everybody remembers Brian Riley, but Gary Wright was a stalwart that built that program for over 30 years.
And he was, just one of those coaches with so much heart. And, you heard him, Eric, say, kind of talk about the gentleman that he is. And he really was, is a gentleman, a retired coach now, but he was fantastic for the game. He had some old quirky practices that I've been told about from, the 70s and 80s, where he might change his goaltender at the end of every period and stuff like that. Different things to keep teams on their heels. But he meant a lot to not just coaching that program, but keeping it going during some of the thinner years and keeping the administration believing that there was some success to come. And now we're seeing it under Eric Lang.
We started out talking about AIC being a surprise this season, but if you really look at the program Eric Lang is building and the players he's recruited, it shouldn't be a surprise.
And I'm really impressed with what he had to say about, recruiting players outside of the United States and getting that international feel to his team and working that network that you have, and kind of living up to the true name of the university or the college, American International. And they really have done that. When you talk about 9 different countries being represented on one college hockey roster, you go back even 10 years, you'd never even imagine that happening. And AIC is doing it with some great success.
And I sure would not want to be the ones facing them should they make it to the NCAA first round.
They are a dangerous team. And, for a lot of reasons, they've got weapons. They've got a great defensive core. They seem to have a lot of believability. All those things go along. And you're talking about a very scary team in the postseason.
That'll do it for USCHO Spotlight. For Jim Connelly, I'm Ed Trefzger, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been the USCHO Spotlight, a production of U.S. College Hockey Online. Visit uscho.com/podcasts to listen or subscribe.